Hey everyone, just Josh Davis here, and today I want to share with you a new way of doing blackout poetry. If you followed me for any length of time, you're probably familiar with blackout poetry because I love to use it as a non-threatening step to get people involved in creating with words. Basically, blackout poetry is where you take a section of text and you black out all the words that you don't want in your poem, leaving only the words that you desire for your poetry left visible on the page. Now, there's several ways to actually do blackout poetry. One is to just intuitively go through and circle or underline all the words you're drawn to, and then create some sort of a flow, then black out all the rest of the words. Another way of doing it is to, on another piece of paper, write down all the words from the text that you're drawn to, figure out your flow, and then go through and black out all the words that you don't want in your poem. And when I'm finished with a piece of blackout poetry, I often like to add other colors or images that for me connect to the theme of the poem. Well, last night I did something different with blackout poetry, and I want to share it with you. Here's what I did. I took a page of text from a book that I enjoy, and I photocopied it. I made 2 copies. And on the first time through with the first copy, I chose what people would call a negative emotion. Now, I don't like that terminology. I believe that there are no negative or positive emotions, but that all emotions are important, that they're all sending us messages that we should pay attention to. It doesn't mean that we should allow our emotions to drive everything that we do, but we should allow them to inform. So, I don't like the terminology negative emotion, but many people feel like fear, sadness, anger, whatever those kinds of categories of emotions would be are negative emotions. So I chose one of those negative emotions. I chose disappointment because this is actually an emotion that's been surfacing in my journal lately. I've noticed over the last several weeks of reading through my journals that I frequently write that I was disappointed in something or someone or some situation. Probably because I'm an adventurer and I'm in quarantine. Probably also because so much has changed in our world and some of the expectations that we used to have as just easily accepted and surely going to happen, they're not happening. So there's a lot of disappointment. So what I did is I read through the page with that lens of disappointment and created this poem. It says, "Waiting for embrace, and darkness emerged, and pandemonium slumped, dissolving into tears for as long as they needed. Time continued until none remained. Alone once more, without a word, a loss and a longing to know everything as it should be." So that was poem number 1. Then I took the same exact text, my second photocopy of the page from the book, and I thought about what's an emotion on the other end of this spectrum from disappointment. I brainstormed this with my kids. We came up with excitement and joy, and I eventually settled on the emotion of contentment or satisfaction. So with that in mind, I read through the page again, and I created a second poem. Listen to what it says. Lightness euphoric, an embrace, already known and loved. Light and color danced and wove a tapestry for everything that had breath sang as it was intended. Time seemed to completely stop. Jesus came alongside and took his hand, squeezing it to let Josh know that everything was as it should be. Now, I inserted my name there. I blacked out the name of the main character of the book, and I just put my name in there for effect. I also used color when I was creating this poem. It felt appropriate to me. So here's what I noticed through this exercise. 1, I noticed that life is a mixture of those positive and negative emotions, right? On this one page of text, there was a mixture. And in our lives, if we're honest, there's always this mixture of emotions that we're feeling. And sometimes we're feeling contentment and disappointment at the same time. The second thing I noticed is that I see in the text, depending on the filter that I'm looking through. So if I'm looking for disappointment, I will find it. If I'm looking for satisfaction, I will find it. One text provided these two vastly different poems. It's a beautiful exercise. I encourage you to try it, and I'd love to hear your reflections. When you try this, what did you realize? What did you notice? And if you're willing, take a picture of your Blackout Poetry and post that in the comments as well. I'd love to have a conversation about it. I promise to engage with anything that you post. Thanks for joining me today. For more creative content to help you engage with yourself, to help you engage with God in creative ways, check me out on Patreon. There's a link in the description.